Council. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Alder Wood.
Here.
Alder Rademacher. Here. Alder Bernstein.
Here.
Alder DePula.
Here.
Alder Holmquist.
Here.
Alder Moore.
Here.
Mayor O'Connor.
Here. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, is there a motion to approve the minutes of the November 4th meeting?
So moved. Second.
Are there any corrections or additions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. We have one appearance tonight, is that right, Neil?
That's correct, Mayor.
Kathy Carew would like to speak about the referendum passing. Kathy, if you'd like to come up and take a seat.
3¼ minutes long. I'll try to stick
Pardon?
right to it. I'm sure you're all very happy to see me. However, it is important that I'm here to give you an autopsy report. When something is over, it's good to know what happened. Looking at the aftermath of the wage increases that are scheduled, there will be 5 positions at the very highest pay of any of the 14 comparable communities. 5. 11 positions, second highest. I don't believe this is what the taxpayers expected. 37% of our employees at the very top. Not only that, 2 positions are still at the very lowest pay. The final table does not align with results that are fitting and acceptable for our Monona. Please look over your final compensations. I spoke with Rachel from GovHR, which is a business, not a government department. She said something I hadn't heard. She said that we were compared to communities that were able to pay the same as us in regards to property tax. Okay, but how much are we paying already? The property tax we pay per person ranks the second highest of the original 55 comparable communities and the very highest of the 14 communities in the final study. We are at $1,025 per person. The next closest is $864 per person. This is before the referendum is added. Something to consider. The driving force for your campaign was a turnover rate due to employees leaving for other higher paying communities. 16 employees left in 2023. That is what was pulling in the heartstrings of our residents, empathy for our hard workers. Looking at your turnover summary for 3 years, employees left for multiple reasons: family relocation, back to school, retirement, and 3 other sectors. And finally, numbers leaving for our communities, paying more. According to the summary, 9 left for other jobs, but that was over a 3-year period. That was different than what we were led to believe. The data was not presented clearly. And now Christmas is around the corner. We know what's on your wish list: a shiny new civic building. You have drawings, bids out, but how will you be able to come back to us and ask for more? The taxpayers are now city poor. It's like house poor. When someone builds a house so expensive, there's nothing left for furniture. Our property taxes are so high that our personal budgets are suffering, or worse. You can read it in 102 pages, not entries, pages of raw comments in regards to having a referendum of this size. 90% of the comments were saying this is high or going to be a hardship. I stopped at the senior center and was so impressed with everything that was going on. The Parks and Rec bring in $1 million through their programs. That's amazing. Our library is a gem. And Dan at Public Works, well, he's simply incredible. All the departments being responsible and careful with their budgets. It's been interesting to learn so much about our city, and bravo. I do not know if the general public realizes these programs generate money for wages and benefits. That's how well they are run. The revenues needed to run a community are staggering. Mark does an amazing job keeping it in order. Our accounts are not empty. In fact, it's surprising to learn how much is left in the balances. One thing is, your pencil was not sharp enough when you proposed the referendum. You come to realize that you have at least $400,000 more than you actually need. 4 options were tossed around: pay down the debt, just hang on to it, invest in CDs and make interest, or lower the overall tax bill for taxpayers. The last one sounds like a good idea. Feel free to contact me. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on. There is no public hearing, there is no consent agenda, no unfinished business. Moving on to new business, item 2A, consideration of resolution 24-11-2751, adopting the 2025 operating budget and establishing a tax levy, put forth by myself. I think we have some amendments that we're going to have Mark talk about, and of course, we won't be voting on this until the next meeting.
Yeah, I'll go through the,
I think, did everyone get a copy of the amendments? Mark, you want to go ahead?
yeah, I'm gonna do the first three. First three are all on me. I have some mistakes, just correcting. First one's to amendment to decrease the Library County aid revenue by $20,868 to actual, and to offset this decrease by increasing transfer from tourism by $20,808. Should be $868. So basically what this is, as we talked last time when Ryan spoke, we found that we had the wrong number in for the county aid. So we had to increase the property taxes by $20,868. We also, when I was doing my analysis, realized after the fact that there was tourism money that we transferred to the general fund, and it stays in the general fund. It doesn't go to the library because of the change from the grandfather to the 70/30, which is basically the same amount. We could, within rounding of $20,868, so that's what that is for. That first one, just correct that. Any questions? The second one is to, the library's getting rid of the vending machine. So we incorrectly had that in as a revenue number. We also know that room rentals is going to be more than what we budgeted at $5,000. So reduce the vending machine by $3,000 to 0, increase the room rental in the library by $3,000 from $5,000 to $8,000.
Questions, anyone? Patrick?
Why are we removing the vending machine? Why are they removing the vending machine? If that
Ryan,
brings
do you
in-
want to address that?
I'm just curious. Very fair question. The current vending machines we've been having, they don't really, not everything goes. So sometimes we have some stuff that we have to take out due to expiration.
Oh, okay.
And it's at best a net there's no profit there. That's by choice on our end. And then finally, both machines, one is very old, one is very new. They both give us the same amount of trouble, I would say, daily. So the amount of staff time that goes into doing that, I would say on average about 6 to 7 times staff are going over there. Collectively, that's just kind of like, do we really need this?
Because you actually maintain them yourselves, right? Nobody comes in and
Correct.
Gotcha.
stocks them or anything.
Yeah,
so.
yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah. And
Okay.
so for those reasons, we decided we would go without. And frankly, let's see if the community comes back at us and say we would like to see something. And then we would start fresh and see really what they would like.
No pull tab machines?
Not yet.
The library, nice.
Any other questions? Okay, Mark, you want to go on to
Yeah.
number 3?
The third was another correction I make. So when I was doing the budget, I accidentally grabbed the wrong number for the senior center salaries, the wrong number in. So I'm just correcting it there. The increase, so the senior center salaries, we're going to offset that by the increase to interest income. With that, so it's a net effect of 0.
Okay, questions? Number 4, Alder Wood, do you want to?
Sure. This amendment would increase the spending for the library materials accounts by $9,000 total. It would be split $2,000 increase to adult books, $5,000 to children's, $500 to young adult, $1,000 to large print, and $500 for the book lease program. My thinking behind this and the way I arrived at the number was basically went back and looked at inflation over the last 13 years and the last 8 years, and adding $9,000 to the budget basically would bring us up to where we would have been if these lines had increased according to inflation over those time periods.
Do you want to explain a little bit about why, the way that Ryan uses
The way-
other funding and?
Oh, yes, sorry, thank you. Yeah, as I think we all know, the direction to the staff was to stay within a 10% increase in their non-personnel costs. But given the nature of the issues that we know that this building always has, Brian had to basically budget the entire 10% for other things, so there wasn't anything really left to use to increase the materials budget. So we don't want to penalize him or the public for that this building is more expensive to maintain. And then just as far as the breakdown, I asked Ryan sort of how he would break it down if there was to be increased money, and this pretty much follows what he had recommended.
Questions, anyone? Brian?
I know we don't have the exact numbers, but I know numbers for books usually get offset that after these accounts are spent out. If there's additional materials that are being sought after, a request is then made to the foundation, which is not a government entity. I think that's one of the pieces that we always fly blind with. Like, we have this budget as it relates to materials, but we also know that there's an opportunity to request funding from another source, but we don't have any good sense of what that other source of funding is. I think that's been some of my concerns over time
You're talking about the Book for Life Fund from the Library
the
Foundation?
Library Foundation.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm just coming up here because I'm not sure if there's a question.
I don't know if it's a question that you actually can answer, but I see this as, okay, if we're looking at materials here that I know have been stagnant for many, many years, like if I go back to my first time on council, I think they're roughly the same numbers. At the same time, it's tough to know what does that foundation have and how willing are they able to be a partner to the library in providing that funding for these materials versus, for example, many of our other departments that have other items that are materials that are used that have stayed static since 2012 as well. And why are we looking at this as one item that could be raised when maybe another department doesn't have another source of opportunity? And I'm just curious if there's any comment. You might not have any answer to that, but.
Well, I will choose not to comment about the other departments because I know they're
Yep.
going to be run by the
Understand.
department heads and directors to the best of their abilities. For the library, we do go to like our partner, the foundation, and receive funding annually. That amount changes, though, as I mentioned before, I don't believe it's ever gone down in terms of the disbursement. So we do use that funding to help supplement our collection budget as much as we can. As Alder Wood pointed out, it's great that we've had that because since the collection budget hasn't moved in over 10 years, and if you take into the cost of inflation, which definitely has also affected the price of materials, we wouldn't be able to maintain even our current collection size without the foundation dollars to help. And then looking at how important the materials are for the library, not only in terms of service to the community, which it is still arguably our number one or number two service that we provide. You also have to take into account then the circulation as it affects the Dane County Library funding.
Yep.
And so as our funding continues to go down, really the only course we have is to focus on our circulation to try to minimize how much that goes down, or, me being ever the optimist, reverse course and actually get that back up. The only way to do that is through circulation, and in my mind, we have maxed out, thanks to the library staff and our community, how many materials we can circulate with our current collection size. I don't see it increasing with our collection size. I even just quick looked, and we had a circulation of 166,748 in 2023 of physical materials, with a budget of material count of 48,346. Oregon had a circulation of 187,989. Their material number is 71,087. Wanakean, I understand these are larger municipalities, 285,487 for circulation with materials very similar to Oregon. I don't know how I can increase the circulation with our current size. I just don't see how it's going to happen, considering we are also ranked per capita for materials in the library 305th out of 381 in the state, 44 out of 53 in SCLS, 14 out of 19 in Dane County. We have a very small collection. It frankly would be much smaller if we didn't have the foundation dollars to help support. And the foundation is doing everything they can to help us, which I very much appreciate. And then I'll add, I appreciate Alderwood looking at this and seeing what could be done to take the operating dollars to increase it, at least getting closer to where it would be given the inflation. Thank you.
Well, it's probably not good.
Is that an official question?
Well, if somebody from Monona tries to request a book and it's not here, they get it from Verona.
Mhm.
Does that affect their funding?
In terms of Dane County funding, my understanding is a little bit. It's mainly though based on the populations that do not have a library, that they are receiving materials or coming here to check out regulars
Okay.
from Monona. That's primarily how that works, because those are the residents of that community that are actually paying the Dane County library tax. As like Monona, I believe, 2 council meetings ago, approved to be exempt because we have a library.
Ryan,
Yes.
what was the limiting factor you said? Was it size?
For what?
Well, for circulation, you couldn't have any more than you have now because of, I couldn't hear the word.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I believe that we are, if I'm understanding your question, we've gone as far as we can go with our circulation with the size of our collection.
Size of the collection?
Yes.
Okay.
Again, as I shared and kind of did a little dance with the per capita dashboard, this library does very well with a lot of the services when you look at it per capita. Not the totals, of course, because it's a smaller community, but per capita, we actually do very well.
Mhm.
But as I just pointed out, our materials for the library is actually very small, even when you look at it per capita. And so really what I'm thinking is the only way we can increase our circulation is by the size of our collection. I don't know how else to do it.
And so that's kind of an investment so that you get a return, increased funding from the county.
That is the strategy.
Ryan, do you happen to remember off the top of your head what those Book for Life
Disbursements?
disbursements have been in the last year or two?
I would say in the last 3 years, it's probably averaged around 6,000.
So it's not like $25,000 or
Correct.
something. It's nice to have,
Well,
but Yeah.
it's invaluable. It's been helping us tremendously. But no, it is not like 25,000. It's about 6.
and it's
let's
an
say 6 to
endowment, and you get a certain
6,500.
percentage every year based on how much it gained in value and
That is correct.
whatever formula. Doug?
Yeah, and I don't think when people gave money to, or have given money for the Book for Life program, at least when I did it, I didn't intend for it to be a replacement for city funding. It's supposed to be
Right.
sort of extra for the library. So, and since it's relative, especially since it's, $6,000 a year, it's not like, it still wouldn't, it doesn't make up for what you've lost. And like you said, even if the dollar amount is caught up, never mind, yes, you would. That's all.
Anyone else? It's a good question, though.
Thank you.
Okay, I guess the next amendment is yours as well, Doug, 2505.
2505, this is, would transfer $400,000 from the general fund balance to the levy for debt service. So to be clear, this doesn't pay down more tax debt. This will reduce the property tax bill. It would, reduce the levy, the total overall levy, instead of being $6.80 as in the proposed budget, to $6.58. That translates on a median home of $435,500. The increase per year would be $597 rather than $696 as in the proposed budget. This would still leave a fund balance of about $2,166,000, 22.5% in the general fund, so above several hundred thousand, above the 20% level. It's not that when we set the $3 million referendum amount, we knew that that was really for a future year. And so to me, this is it a way to, we don't need the money immediately this year. All of it, I should say. So this is a way to basically reduce the tax bill, the total tax bill, by $400,000.
And the reason we had to request the $3 million is because the state required us to tax the amount that we would be taxing at the end of the 5-year period from the beginning. We didn't have a choice in how, like the school district can set an amount and then just raise it a percentage each year. We're not allowed to do that, just how state law goes, so. Do you have any questions for Doug? Nancy?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that we learned at the last, or during the committee of the whole meetings, that 696 was the number from Mark rather than the original advertised 713. Right. So it had dropped a little bit anyway per household, average household, or median household, and so that means that for a median household, it would actually be a drop of $116 for this.
Total, right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, from what people voted on, if you will, in the referendum. Yeah.
Any other questions or comments about this?
Yeah.
Rick?
Well, when you say we had to ask for $3 million, could we have asked for less money and it kept that the same throughout the 5 years?
Then we wouldn't have had enough money to cover our needs for that time period, because we had to figure in a percentage increase for every,
But we're finding out
ensuing
now that we
budget.
have more money than we need.
no,
Only
we knew
the
that
first
to
year.
start with.
Only for
Just
the
for the
first
first
year.
year.
It's only for
There'll
1
be-
year.
And it drops
There will
every
be,
year.
there will probably be some excess in the second year, and then, by the third, certainly by the fourth year, will be
Zeroed out.
Yeah, will be zeroed out.
Zeroed out by the 4th year.
Yeah, by 2029.
Right.
I don't know if you remember the lag sheet, that worksheet we gave you last week. It drops every year.
Yeah, I remember.
So if you didn't have it in there, you would, 2026, we'd be making cuts. So basically, that's why it's in there.
So I guess I'm confused, because I thought we were going to try to bankroll the excess so that we had more in the later years.
It was
We are
decided.
still doing that. It's just a different way of doing it.
It was one of the options that people
Yeah.
were talking about.
Okay.
And this is just, the amendment here is just one of those options. Right?
Yeah.
And it actually cuts the taxes people will have to pay.
We were already at, our fund balance was at 26.62%, so we're already at a high percentage. So regardless if or not, we would adjust that down to closer to this number anyways,
Okay.
one way or the other.
Thanks.
Any other questions, comments?
That's on page 5.
Teresa, did you have?
Just more of a comment, I would just want to amplify something the mayor had said a moment ago, was that it's not that we chose to ask for an amount that was more than we needed, but rather that we are required by state law to ask for an amount that will cover operating expenses, 5 years out?
Right.
And so all of those calculations, had to be made.
We had to figure out how much we would need based on a certain amount of inflation every year.
Right.
Doug, did you?
Well, I mean, obviously, we could have, you know, set the levy at what we needed this year, and then next year we'd be behind again.
And
Yeah.
go to- yeah.
Yeah, so,
And the year after that, so we'd either have to, then we'd have to go out for a referendum every single year.
Which is a
basically.
costly
Which is
undertaking.
costly. and-
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Right,
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, it's unfortunate that's the way the state law is written, but
yeah.
right.
there may be a
'Cause
reason why
obviously-
it's written that way, I don't know, but.
That would be one of the, hopefully, future amendments we would like to see to that legislation is to
Yeah.
allow us to
Yeah.
actually designate the fund, what we need for the levy in each consecutive year, rather than have to go out to the last one and levy for that maximum. That would be a nice adjustment, so.
Okay, if there's anything else on that one, Doug, you want to, I think this last one is yours
Yep.
as well.
This is an amendment that would increase the interest income and dividends line by $50,000 to $150,000. They're basically 100. We are expecting this year to have $300,000 year-end estimate in interest income, and while interest rates are definitely going to, or probably I should say, going to decline, even a conservative look at this, I don't think they're going to decline so much that we'd only get a third of the interest income. So, and I don't know what Mark.
No, I agree. I think 150 would be the max. But this is kind of a rolling thing too, if you noticed in entries 3 and 4, or amendments 3 and 4, they all reference interest income, so that the 50,000 actually would be the net of the other 3 and 4 adjustments, if they get approved, if they would be approved.
Right.
Any questions about that? Nancy?
I don't have a question, I just have a comment, and that is that, that Alderwood and I discussed that I would be a co-sponsor on this as well.
I'm sorry. Oh,
And you are,
Alderwood and I.
oh, on
yeah.
this one?
You're
So-
not-
Oh.
I thought it was on the one before that.
It
Okay.
was on both, it was on both,
Yep, I'll get that on there. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I apologize.
no problem.
Anything else on the amendments? Does anybody have any questions for staff on the proposed operating budget? They're here to answer questions if you have anything. Nancy?
I don't have a question, I just have gratitude. You know, we say it all the time, but I just want to say it again, you guys presented really smart budgets, and, you know, you didn't treat this referendum passage in any way, shape, or form as kind of a blank check. Oh, wow, why don't we go, you know, why don't we catch up on all these things that we've been doing, and, you know, where we've been cut to the bone, and I just, you know, I said it when we did the capital budget, and I'll say it again to our community, just watch the committees of the whole to realize how professional, how dedicated, passionate, and true experts our staff are, and, you know, the way they apply themselves and their budgets day in and day out. It's worth watching. And I can't thank you guys enough. I think you did a great job.
Thank you. Anyone else? Neil, did you have anything to add?
No, just certainly reiterate the appreciation. Obviously, we know this has been a little bit of a compressed time frame, and what council usually gets to work on this, but obviously having to prepare multiple budget scenarios put us a little bit behind the 8 ball in terms of timing. So I do appreciate staff's efforts to make sure that to actually get all your budget documents out to you, and appreciate the review. And certainly, if you have any other questions, certainly to let Mark or I know.
One more
Patrick?
comment. I know there was like some discussion earlier and and praise of department heads that do a really good job, and that's definitely true. But I did notice that someone was notably left out, and I wanted to thank Neil Stickschulte for his work during the referendum and meeting with citizens multiple times and hours and hours and hours, and really kind of shepherding us through that process. So thanks, Neil.
Yeah, thank you.
You're here.
I have a question. Just in the budget overall, just a question about that. It is true that a good chunk of the budget will go toward, adjusting salaries of staff, something that's been, pushed off for a very long time. I just was curious, I just don't know, is it accurate to say that the new salaries mean that Monona City staff would be among the highest paid of any of the communities around? I don't recall that being the case, but Mark, maybe you have something to say about that.
Or
Yes,
does
Alder,
Leah
I can
maybe?
take it
or
first.
Neil?
So I just want to make note that, if you recall, Alder, the point of what the whole effort of our compensation study was to get at 60% of the market.
Correct. That's the number I always, in my head, is 60%,
So,
right?
correct. Now,
We're not
there are
100% of the market.
There
We're
certainly
not-
are individuals who have been here long enough in terms of their overall,
Sure.
putting them in their range and their longevity, that certainly
Right.
they are closer to the top
Right.
of their range. Absolutely.
Right,
But yeah, the whole direction that was adopted from council was to be
Right.
at about 60% of the
right.
market.
And the idea is, instead of just going to 50, why not reward them slightly more?
It
and
makes us more
retain-
competitive,
And retain and be
right.
more slightly competitive,
Yeah.
not ridiculously more competitive.
Yeah. And certainly, in terms
And-
of the identifying the
right.
comparables, Alder, certainly there's, you look at, community size, we can look at budget size, we
Right.
can look at service levels, there's multiple ways of certainly looking at it. But simply from a labor market standpoint, I mean, the Dane County market is our primary labor market that we
Sure.
compare to.
Sure,
So certainly compared to other communities our size, we may be a little bit higher on there, but I think we've had other discussions in terms of the service demands and levels that we have to provide as a community that is in a very urbanized area.
Mm-hmm.
It is somewhat different than other communities, so.
right.
That is certainly one of the factors that we took a look at as we tried to establish what the 60% of that market is
Right.
going to be.
And I also understand, or it's been my understanding, that, when we do these comparisons with other communities, it's not just, this is the job title over here, and this is the job title over here in this community. I mean, my job title is, my list of duties is completely different in my company than a friend of mine who has the same job title in a different company. So the job titles, as part of this assessment, are really removed. And it is only the list of duties and your compensation, and your list of duties over here and your compensation. So you truly are comparing equal work. Is that accurate?
There's a very, and certainly if you have trouble sleeping at night, I highly recommend reading the full methodology that GovHR uses.
Put you to sleep, yeah.
But it is a very, I think there's at least 10 different factors in
Right.
terms of responsibility, decision-making, financial authority,
Right,
other types of levels of responsibility that are incorporated into reviewing the job descriptions, not only from reviewing the written job description, but actually interviewing
Yeah.
the actual staff in those positions.
yeah.
So it is a fairly involved process. It is not just, yeah, you're right, Alder, it's not just, well, we'll just pluck these two and put them in the same category. So in terms of the grades, not only in terms of establishing the different grades of positions, but the difference of actually how much those wages are within each of those ranges, and again, comparing from range
Right.
to range. So it is a fairly involved process.
Yeah. Thank you.
Doug?
Just to follow up on that, and any employee or position that's covered in the compensation study will be brought up to at least 60%, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Nancy?
Sorry, I forgot I had two other questions. One is, Mark had originally said that when he was figuring the budget pre-referendum, that he was including what we are anticipating maybe a billboard lease, which, as you know, was recently brought through the Plan Commission. So where would is that revenue here, and I just didn't see it in the revenues, or,
We took it out. We were doing it, we didn't know if that was approved, so we took it out.
okay,
It's not in there.
okay.
It'll be in there for next year.
Maybe.
So, I mean, obviously, that's a,
Maybe it's through all of it. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. We haven't discussed it.
hmm?
I said, we haven't discussed it, that's why.
Premature.
Correct.
Hopefully, we're not counting on that funding.
No,
We did not include it because it was-
right,
There was one
correct.
mistake.
I assumed it wasn't in yet, but my question, but I know that you originally had
It
said,
originally was, and then it got tabled. so-
Right.
Just for the record, Alder, we are looking at hopefully having that lease before council, probably in December.
right.
So right now.
So, if the council were to pass that, it's $80,000 a year and escalating as it currently stands. Where would those funds go?
To the general fund.
That would go to the general fund?
Mhm.
Okay, okay. And then the second thing was, you had talked at one point about some software, webware, to improve some efficiencies in the office for project management, to support a variety of staff members who spend a lot of time staring at a computer and moving paper around, on their desks as well. And are those things in this budget already as well, or was there a placeholder in IT and then?
I think we had just a general placeholder
Okay.
in our IT, but I do need to revisit that before.
It's in the budget.
So it is included. Okay, Mark does have a number in there.
Okay,
So we know, we have a firm estimate on the agenda management software, and then we're looking for a little bit more of a firm one still for our policy
Mhm.
manual software that we would like to invest in.
okay, thank you.
Anyone else have any questions on the budget? And it will be on the agenda again in 2 weeks, so. All right, moving on. Item 2B, consideration of resolution 24-11-2749, authorization to order and purchase replacement bucket truck put forth by the Public Works Committee. This is starred for immediate approval. Before we vote on that, Dan, would you like to explain why it's starred?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm requesting this be approved in one reading so we can get it in the queue in the order process. Oftentimes, it takes up to about a year to get these trucks delivered to us. So the sooner we get our order in, the higher up on the production queue we can be.
And we did already approve this as part of the capital budget.
Yes, on October 21st, City Council approved the capital budget. Funding was included in the capital budget. At that time, $224,605. As presented that evening, the purchase price that will be charged is $218,786. We're purchasing from Custom Truck of Union Grove. I believe that's about it for summary, unless there's any
Move that we
questions.
suspend the rules and take it out of order.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Is there a motion to approve?
Move approval.
Second.
Okay, Dan.
Okay. Yeah, again, this is to get in the production queue. It's a request to place the order and upon delivery, accept the purchase for the vehicle. Price again is $218,786 from Custom Truck of Union Grove.
Any questions for Dan? Patrick?
Dan, is it true that in your experience that the average lifespan of a bucket truck is about 10 years? And with extra maintenance, you can probably stretch it to 15?
I know ours will be 17 years next year, I believe. We did purchase it used. It was 5 years old when we bought it, but it was heavily used, I guess if you could say that, by the previous company. It was a
Gotcha.
line truck. We do not use it as hard as a line company would, but our vehicle is still used from spring through fall, on average 2 to 3 times a week. Matter of fact, it was just out today and this week putting up the holiday decoration lights.
Gotcha.
But we use it for tree trimming, tree removals, any sign work, any light work that we might do, other miscellaneous tasks. The park department uses it as well.
Gotcha. Yeah, because everything that I looked at as far as research goes, it's like, they usually last 15 years, and ours
Yeah.
seems to have exceeded that.
Right.
Okay.
Our maintenance costs are starting to creep up. Last year, we had a heavy year on maintenance.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, if there are none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Alder Rademacher.
Aye.
Excuse me. Alder Bernstein.
Aye.
Alder DePula.
Aye.
Alder Holmquist.
Aye.
Alder Moore.
Aye.
Alder Wood.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you, Dan.
The next three are Doug's, so Doug, hurry up here so we can send you home. First item under new business, item 2C, consideration of resolution 24-11-2753, a resolution to vacate Angle Street in the city of Monona, and this is put forth by the Plan Commission.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everybody. So this first item is just the first read on the possible vacation of Angle Street. This would be heading east from Gishoff Drive down by the Floor and Decor onto the proposed Topgolf site. This vacation has been discussed throughout the process, very early on, sort of during early discussions with the developer about that. This is needed in order for the location of the site to sort of be as approved by the Plan Commission. The vacation was included sort of as an informational item within the certified survey map, and would also be is also a requirement that this vacation, of course, take place before that certified survey map be recorded. So this evening, the request really is to kind of get the ball rolling with this. We do have a Class 3 notice. There will be 3 notices into the Herald Independent, and this will be coming to Plan Commission on December 9th for their consideration as well, with seeking a recommendation to City Council. So the plan will be to return after that date, pending the development agreement as well, of course. So this is all trying to sort of align things and sort of move with limited delay, but at the same time be mindful of sort of the sequencing of these things, and not to move on this until we know the development agreement is complete, for example.
Questions, anyone? Rick?
If the project is dropped or it doesn't get approved, what happens to our approval of this vacating of the street?
So that's really sort of the main reason for the timing of this, that we would be looking for the development agreement and sort of assurances from the developer that this is moving forward before the resolution or before the vacation took place, because it is not sort of revocable were it to be vacated. So it's a finite action to vacate. So we want to make sure that when we're doing that, that it's, you know, with the project in mind, certainly.
So, but if the project gets dropped or it's not approved on one level or another, do we have to come back and unvacate the street, or how does that work?
The vacation would mean that that would no longer be a city right-of-way. There would be, there are utilities that run beneath that section of street, so there would still be easements in place, but that would effectively be going from if the vacation were to take place, it would be going from public land to private land.
And it's unrevocable?
Correct.
Oh.
Neil, did you?
Just to make sure, I think to Director Plowman's point, that's why we just want to make sure we do it in the right order.
Yes.
So we make sure the development, there is some degree of certainty of the project proceeding before we actually complete the vacation.
Doug?
I think the confusion is it's before us tonight, and
Yeah.
we're not, so the plan is this would be basically put on hold, right?
That's correct. This would
until
not
we
be
have-
returning at the next meeting.
Right.
I believe, I've been working with City Attorney Cole on this. I believe there's a 40-day, 40, from first introduction, which would be tonight, through to the action. There's noticing that's required, and these items too. So it's a minimum of 40 days. So it's really to get the ball rolling, without delay. But certainly that would not be a request for action until after the development agreement. So this is not considered to come back to the next meeting.
So by the time we vote on it, we'll be certain, or as close to that as you
Yes.
can be, that the project will go forward.
Absolutely.
Anyone else? Okay, well then we'll move on to the next item. This is also started for immediate approval. Consideration of Resolution 24-11-2750, approval of a certified survey map, CSM, to combine lots 6 and 7 of Block 1 of the Monona Ridge Plat, 5405 and 5407 Toniawaka Trail, put forth by the Plan Commission, and would you like to explain why this is started, Doug?
Yes, it's really a timing reason that was requested by the applicant, just given the time of year. They would like to ideally be able to get some groundwork done this year, is my understanding, for construction of the new home before the weather changes. So the 2 weeks to go from one read to two, or two read to one read would be very much appreciated. So that was the reason for the request.
Is there a motion to take this out of order?
Motion to take this out of order?
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second?
Doug?
Thank you. So the request this evening is a certified survey map of 5405 and 5407 Tony Awatha Trail. These are two lots. Currently, the applicant would like to build across them, build a new single-family home. As currently platted, that would not be allowed because it would be building across 2 lots. It would not meet setbacks, and we just, as a matter of course, do not allow construction across lot lines. So the request is for the certified survey map. This one, you'll have noticed, there is a boathouse in, I believe, the 5407 Tony Awatha Trail. This came up, it was actually at a pre-hearing back in 2022. That was being rented, it was inhabited at that point. It's a larger structure than you would typically see. 2 stories, there's sort of the storage area, and then there was a sort of living area above. That was discussed. One of the requirements of this, and you'll see that in the I believe the resolution, is some discussion about sort of the habitability of that space. We have spoken both with the building inspector, the owner's builder, as well as the city attorney about sort of measures for that, and there was discussion about that at Plan Commission as well. The other item that was discussed, certainly for the 2 holders that are on Plan Commission, there was discussion about the right-of-way width on Tony Awatha. And it's quite an interesting area. There's some details there that I did get to follow up with the surveyor that was looking at this on our behalf from Bierbecker. And he is satisfied that the modified and updated certified survey map does accurately depict the right-of-way. It should be shown as easements for the streets and utilities. It's not an actual right-of-way. So there was discussion of sort of width that was there. That width is correct per the plats as was put on by the surveyor, and these are truly just easements. So there was some discussion and sort of request that those items be addressed prior to action. And that's a lot from me. I know we're joined this evening by the applicant surveyor as well. Certainly, if there's anything else to add or to answer any questions. Thanks.
Any questions for Doug or the surveyor, you said?
Yes.
I'm
Rick?
curious about the boathouse. It looks like it's encroaching. I know it's only a little bit, but technically it probably should have some space between the boundary and the boathouse. So is that grandfathered in, or there's nothing we can do about it at this point?
It is grandfathered. The matter of the fact that it's, I think, 0.4 of a foot over the lot line, that is sort of more of a civil matter. If the neighbor, for example, were to request that to be moved, that would be sort of a matter between the 2 parties. You're correct that this is grandfathered as is currently built. And were it to be built today, we would have setbacks. It would be, I believe, 3 feet from the lot line would be the requirement. So it's grandfathered, it's existing non-conforming, but certainly were it to be knocked down and for a new one to be built, it would come into compliance with those ordinances as well. So,
Okay.
I believe some of it sort of owes to the age of the boathouse, just the accuracy of lot lines and things like that are not what they were, what they are today. So.
Got it. Thank you.
Doug?
So, and I emailed Doug about this earlier today, but, right now we have two lots that are buildable because, right?
Yes.
They're smallish, about, I don't know, 8,000 square feet each, but, there's not 2 houses on it now, but there could be in the future that would generate quite a bit, well, I don't know, whether it would generate more tax revenue than a new home that would be built on, 1 built on 2. I have to believe that the property value of 2 houses would exceed the property value of 1. It also obviously reduces housing units by, reduces the potential housing units by 1. Was that discussed in Plan Commission at all?
It certainly was during the pre-hearing back in 2022. There was sort of an acknowledgement from the commission members, as you say, that this is the removal of 1 single-family lot, a net removal of 1. But there was also sort of an acknowledgement generally that, you know, the applicant owned both. This was their request, and as proposed. So the existing lots would not do not meet sort of dimensional standards that we would require today for single-family lots, as stated in the current ordinance. But the proposed lot does. So there was definitely a recognition of that, but they ultimately did see it fit to recommend council approve the CSN.
Just one comment, I guess, you know, that this change runs with the land, so it won't matter, you know, if when eventually somebody else owns this in the future, it'll be somebody else, you know, the changes here will be forever unless a future council were to undo them.
That's correct, yes.
Anyone else? Teresa?
How will this new combined lot compare in size to the lots in the neighborhood? Will it be unusually standout-ish? I mean, is it congruent, or is it, what's the word I'm looking for?
It would not be consistent with the neighbors. I think that may be sort of the intent here. This, I believe, is one of the older areas of the city as far as the platting goes and sort of the layout. So, and again, certainly the surveyor can correct me here, but I believe north and south of here, both of those lots have 50 feet of frontage. This would combine and make it 100 feet here. That being said, sort of dimensionally from a city perspective, it's not uncommon to see a 70 or 80 foot frontage on a lot. I would say 50 is quite narrow. We do have a few narrow on Tony Awatha, but maybe 45, 40.
Sure.
But certainly from it isn't excessively wide, I wouldn't say. It certainly is a larger lot for a single family home now, but not excessively, I wouldn't say.
Okay.
Anyone else? Okay. Well, then I will call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion passes. Item 2E, consideration of ordinance 11-24-782, amending Chapter 473 of the Code of Ordinances regarding land divisions and minor land divisions, and this is put forth by the Plan Commission. Doug.
Thank you. So this is a first read on a possible ordinance revision to Chapter 474. That is the land division section, the section that we just looked at for the certified survey map. The reason for this is that we have seen more of these requests. We do have quite a few areas that could generally be cleaned up a little better, I would say, from single and two family lots, specifically the single family. The current review process for that includes 5 meetings with 3 review bodies, often causing delays. That includes Plan Commission, Public Works Committee, as well as City Council. And so in addition to that, the CSM is also reviewed by staff, but also the city's consulting engineer as well. So the request here this evening is to consider some language cleanup, sort of clarifying some of the actual details that I would say a sort of practice, how we handle these already. But also the main element here would be the minor land division, the introduction of that into the ordinance here. This is modeled on language that was introduced by the city of Sun Prairie and has been working very well for them. I will say they actually use it for more than just single and two family. So this is a little more restrictive in that nature. But effectively this sort of gives greater staff discretion for the review of these in the single and two family, as long as they meet very specific standards. And it still certainly gives myself the opportunity to bring it to the Planning Commission if it's seen as necessary to take it that way. And any division, proposed division that would be within the retail business or community design districts, sort of the more commercial in nature of lots, they would all still go to those review bodies as a matter of course. So included in the meeting packet is sort of red line language that can show that. So you'll see kind of the cleanup earlier on. Again, it gives some deference to the Public Works Director as well, based on whether this goes to Public Works Committee. And then the main thing is really the approval authority for those minor land divisions within those single two family. So we do have dimensional standards for those lots. So there are sort of very specific standards that would require that, as well as if there's any dedication of right-of-way or anything like that, that still necessitates that review as well. So part of this is sort of working with the applicants and certainly recognizing we still have the internal review process mechanisms there, but the request here is to include this and consider this as an option moving forward for those single and two family. So this did go to Plan Commission at their meeting on November 11th, and it was recommended for approval to the City Council. Thanks.
Anyone, questions? Nancy?
I was just want to reiterate that that it was approved by the Plan Commission, and in fact, this would not preclude in any way Doug or any plan director coming forward with something that is a sticky wicket, as it relates to lot lines or other. And we certainly have plenty of those in the city, whether it's old utilities, or, as we all know, or kittywampus lot lines. But this would save the staff, and not just the plan director, but as he said, committees, volunteer committees, the staff, the engineer, contract and engineer, and not to mention us, because we look at CSMs too. It would just really clean it up and tighten it up in a way and create some great efficiencies.
Alder DePula?
Quick question. I'm sure this is the answer, but we pay when Verbeeker, when our consultant comes to the meetings, we're paying them to be here, right? When they come to Plan Commission?
We do recover those costs from the applicant.
We do, from the applicant, okay. But, ultimately, like Nancy said, it's kind of an effort to move towards efficiency, give staff a little bit more latitude, make things a little bit easier in the sense that the time commitment of staff is limited, and we're asking more and more and more of them. And for some of these things, it's a lot of times when CSMs come to committees, it's like there's usually very little questions because we rely on staff most of the time anyway. I mean, not necessarily Plan Commission, but the other committees, like we'll do that sometimes. Anyway, it's a move towards efficiency.
Rick, did you have a question?
Yeah. So the CSM that we just looked at on Tonawatha, that would not come before the council, correct, if we had this in place?
It would not have had to. The boathouse, for example, though, that could have been a discussion point. Let's say that were not there, I think it's a little simpler, but the encroachment, as you pointed out, the habitation of that as well, I think that's the sort of thing that we would most likely discuss internally if there was back and forth, if there was disagreement, for example, between, say, the city and the applicant. It's the sort of thing that would absolutely, we could run through committee up to council, but were that to be discussed internally and a solution that feels appropriate and that could work, that would be one. I believe that it meets all of the necessary requirements for single family. So that would be an example. We do have others that come to mind that have been a lot simpler than this. And certainly from a scheduling perspective, we often see these come across my desk when they're applying for a building permit, expecting to start work in a couple weeks. So to then say, you need a CSM, you're at 5 meetings and probably 6 to 8 week delay. That's sort of the reasoning for this, and especially if it's cleanup on sort of a traditional single-family lot, I see that as an efficiency. Of course, if there's anything unusual or peculiar, then it could come.
So if they at some point, I know it probably won't be possible because they'll have a house probably on the line, but if they wanted to split that lot at some point after it's been combined, would that go just through you or through the council?
That would come back to council because it would be, assuming current standards for the zoning ordinance, they would be below the lot standards.
Okay.
It would be too small, and the frontage would be the other consideration. So that would not meet the standards and would need to come back.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Doug, did you have something?
Yeah.
And then Patrick.
So if it's considered a minor land division, you would be the decision-making authority unless you chose to bring it to plan and council?
Yes, and it would still have Via review. All CSMs will still have our engineer look at those.
But
as well.
no meetings that would have to go to?
Correct.
And do you know about how many of those you might have in a year?
I would
Seems
say
like we have them every week.
Quite a few of them lately, yeah.
I would say we've had, certainly had a few in the commercial areas, Topgolf being one
Right.
of those, the one on Gishop and Engel. But I would say single family or two family, probably 4 or 5 a year. Of those that would most likely, I'd say probably 80% of those probably meet the minor land division. So let's say 4 applications and then out of those 5 meetings as well for each
Right.
application.
So that would be 20 meetings that you wouldn't have to take these to, is that right?
Potentially, yeah.
And then if it's just a regular land division, the decision, we could do it, Plan Commission and council could approve it in one read.
Yes.
Well, we can do that anyway, but this, yeah.
Certainly some of this is sort of cleaning up some of the red line you'll see in the early section of that 473, kind of cleaning up and certainly, as you say, getting to one meeting for each, I think is most likely appropriate. There's certainly a little more work involved getting that reviewed by Via sort of ahead of time. The applicant can request to have a pre-hearing, but I would imagine they would just want to go straight to consideration.
And I guess, are you okay with having that responsibility to make that decision on your own without, having the necessarily go, having the Plan Commission make the decision instead?
Yes, I am. I think that having Via there as well, having it,
Right.
and it's a licensed surveyor that will look at this as well. So that's not a qualification I have. So we'll have their review as part of this as well, and certainly any conditions. It would mimic a very similar path. Absolutely, I think there'll be a deference to the commission if there is any cause for concern. I would certainly look to bring that back, but I think for the single family, it's typically part of the process. And so with that, we have the standards for that district those districts as well, single and two family. So I'm pretty comfortable with that.
Yeah, great.
Patrick?
And I just wanted to add one more quick thing, and that's, an example of, when Doug was out, right? We had there were issues, but there were delays with reading some of these and then put some projects behind, and not for anybody else's fault, but we have one person here that does that. And then if he can't get it to the meeting, then it doesn't go to that meeting, and then it's pushed off to the next month, and then the next month, and that kind of happens. So it's just a way that makes things easier for our citizens to navigate as well.
And Neil, I think you've said this is quite common in other communities.
Yeah,
It's not just
absolutely,
some
Mayor.
very-
Certainly throughout Dane County, especially larger communities, this is a very standard item. Again, I think it kind of comes with the territory of when you've got a lot of them coming through, you get to a point of like, why are we looking at these? Certainly, the important thing is that the standard is well defined in the ordinance. So this is not really certainly while
Right.
Doug is extremely capable on handling on these, this is not a creative writing exercise.
Right.
This is, yes, it's yes or no, does it meet the standard in most
Yeah.
cases? So, I would actually, certainly, I was even pushing earlier on for even, things beyond single and two-family subdivisions, but after conversations with Doug and certainly with some plan commissioners, Phil, this is a good start. Let's see how this goes for a while. Make sure this works the way everybody gets comfortable with it, and then we can always come back and revisit it a little further on.
Okay.
But the one point I think Alder DePuy was kind of hinting at is also an advantage for the applicant. Now, not only for staff, but to basically eliminate 5 meetings off of their development review schedule is a pretty big perk. I think they're, they would,
A lot of times they're paying someone to.
Right.
absolutely, saving them both money and time in terms
Right.
of keeping their project moving forward. So this could, not only is it, I think, a good planning practice, as we've seen, but it is actually could be viewed as an economic development tool as well.
Nancy?
Well, I was just gonna say, Doug just pointed out that it could be as many as 20 meetings. It's unbelievable. But that's just for plan and city council. Our current ordinance has it going through public works.
Oh, that's
Yep.
true.
So, so when you total up not only the plan commission, but also the public works commission and the city council, it adds up pretty dang fast. So it's just really, and again, there's no reason why it can't come in front of us if Doug sees something he doesn't understand or brings something up. But I can tell you from a plan commission standpoint, probably a year and a half ago when a CSM came through, the plan commission, it's safe to say that most of the commissioners are not that familiar with CSMs. And so, we often look to one commission member, and I actually asked that one commission member if he wanted to do a tutorial on CSMs at some point for the whole commission, because the rest of the group kind of glasses over. And that's never happened, because I think it just, everybody kind of has their specialty and on the commission in a good way. So, I'm not so sure that the commission is adding a ton of value to most of them anyway.
Anyone else? I think Monona, just by nature of the way it was developed, just has a lot of oddball
Yeah,
bylaws
exactly.
and things, right?
Exactly.
It's-
Yeah.
I know, I own one of them, yeah.
It probably served, I probably served the community probably quite well for
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
long time.
It's just when you want to build something on it, then you have to clean it up before you can.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's certainly, a lot of times you'll find, certainly, obviously there's some ordinance rules and things, but even banks, when they're looking at providing financing, they want clean lots.
Right.
They don't want mystery, dashed lines of a boundary that used to be there 80 years ago that's not really there anymore, but still shows up on, they just want nice, clean, uncomplicated CSMs and plats.
So, just for clarification of my own understanding, so we talked about 20 meetings, but then Aldermore commented that that was just planning. It didn't include public works meetings. So theoretically, we're perhaps even doubling that number here.
For some cases, it could
For
it
some
could
cases.
go that high, I would say.
Yeah, it could go that high. I
The-
mean, there are instances where
don't all
public works
do,
makes a
but-
lot of sense, just like there's some cases when,
Right.
and when Doug will look at something and it might fit this new ordinance for him to just look at it, but he might go to Dan in addition to Verbecker, just, just to make sure there isn't some wayward utility run or something
Yeah.
there that.
Right.
We have major infrastructure in there,
Right,
yeah,
right,
they're gonna wanna
right.
make sure that they're
Right.
absolutely
Right.
are.
Right.
But that obviously can still happen without having
Right.
to go through a
Right.
commissioner committee.
Okay, if no one has anything else, we'll let this man go home.
Thank you.
Thanks, Doug.
We'll be back in 2 weeks if you have any more questions.
Take care.
Thank you.
All right, we will move on to reports of committees, commissions, et cetera. Start with Alder DePula.
Nothing, no report.
Alder Olmquist.
No report.
Alder Moore.
The Transit Commission will be meeting on Wednesday nights at 6 PM at City Hall Conference Room, where we have not met for a few months because we've been waiting to schedule something with the Metro, the marketing side of Metro. Because they have a gigantic marketing apparatus. And so we're anticipating on Wednesday that they will be there and be sharing what they recommend for a rollout. And looking forward to hearing what they say and learning and thinking about how we can dovetail what they intend to do to get the bus rolling in March.
Alderwood?
Just two things external, or rather, one thing that's external is that tomorrow night from 5:30 to 7, the US 51 Stoughton Road South Study Committee will be doing a public involvement meeting that is at La Follette High School in the Commons and cafeteria. And the other thing is that the ice rink is now open. Well, I mean, it's not open today, I don't think, so it has opened, weather dependent.
I saw
going
skaters.
forward. You did?
Yeah,
Okay.
this weekend.
Oh, this weekend, yes. It opened, I think there was a notice that they
Okay.
closed it,
Okay.
today because of the weather.
Okay, there you go.
That's it.
Alder Rademacher?
I'll be joining Alder Moore Wednesday night at the Transit Commission. Landmarks is meeting tomorrow night. We'll be talking about some continuing conversation about historic markers and underrepresented communities, and also planning for a tour, a walking tour of historic sites. I met with one of the landmark volunteers this weekend, and we put together a project plan, and I was really pleased that some of the ideas that came forward in that, let's find a way to not only honor to honor all of the inhabitants of this community, all of the earliest members. And since Preservation Month falls in May, as does Mother's Day, we thought maybe we might find a way to lift up historic figures that were women. So we'll keep plugging away at that for a nice little DEI twist. Sustainability meets on Thursday. We'll continue conversations about autumn leaf management. We'll continue conversations about salt management practices in the wintertime, energy planning, a grant that we applied for. We'll have some good news to announce soon about that. And I'll just wrap it up then with sustainability, just to say that keep your eyes on the city Facebook page, because in the coming days we'll be announcing the names of our 3 leaf trucks.
That's right.
We had almost 200 citizen engagements in this contest, which is wonderful. Super creative names, and I can't share with you the final 3, but I think they'll bring a smile to your face. And coloring contests for children. We had, probably a dozen kids that submitted some really beautiful artwork. And over the weekend, our volunteers contacted the families and invited them to an event at our Public Works garage. There's an upcoming No School Day, and the kids will get to meet a leaf truck. And one of them will get to ride on the leaf truck, so that'll be
It'd be hard telling the rest of them no.
very nice. Well, that was an interesting conversation. Our volunteers thought, let's pick the winner now and set expectations before anyone arrives, whether they will or not be riding in a truck that day. So, yeah. All right.
Thank you. And Alder Bernstein?
Library board meeting tomorrow night. Teresa mentioned sustainability on the 21st.
Mm-hmm.
Public safety meets on the 27th. And also on the 26th, the first meeting of the Dane County Heritage Commission will be meeting, and I'm on that committee. And one of the things we're looking at is this program about underrepresented communities' historic markers. And Monona Landmarks has been involved in that program. So we'll be talking about that on Tuesday night. That's it.
All right. City Clerk?
I had one,
Doug?
one thing I forgot. Parks Board actually did recommend approval of a bid award for the community center project, including a new stairwell, senior center reception and office renovation, park and rec office reconfiguration with new lights and some windows, and painting in the main hall room. This was,
Hallelujah.
I thought that was going to be on the agenda tonight.
I think they're still wrapping up a couple of bid documents.
Okay.
So we had it listed, but Jake asked if it would be.
Okay, so hopefully next time.
How long did it take us to get somebody to do that?
yeah,
Long
last time we did.
Before I was here.
There were no bidders the last time.
Yeah, it's a
So
long
we
time
had, there were
coming.
5 bids.
Really?
Doug and I are actually doing it. That's okay.
Yeah.
It's really cheap.
It's not gonna look great, but.
I don't know if I want to use those stairs, yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna
We
look
can't
nice.
make it worse, can they?
Well, that's great news.
Yeah.
Very happy. Aline, did you have anything?
Yes, I do have candidate papers ready to be picked up. Mayor and 3 alders are up this coming April election. You can start circulating papers December 1st. The deadline for non-candidates, notification of non-candidacy is December 27th. So if you're not intending to rerun, make sure you file that prior to 5 p.m. on the 27th of December.
Wow.
Papers are due back to my office January 7th at 5 p.m. And then let me know if you have any questions.
January 7th?
Yes.
City Administrator.
No report, Mayor, just looking forward to getting back to the rest of the list that's been waiting since we get back from.
Yes, we went over the list, and there's a whole bunch of other stuff waiting to be done. So. Okay, I just had a couple things. First of all, I know some people are aware of this, but I am not going to run for re-election in the spring. So now it's official, and I'm planning to put something in the city newsletter that comes out this week. So I would have announced earlier, but I wanted to see what the results of the referendum were, and now that I think, now that that's passed, the city's, I think, in good shape going forward, and I will be happy to take a break, so.
Thank you very much for your service, Mayor.
Yeah,
Well,
really.
you're
Amazing.
welcome.
8 years was enough.
Yeah.
Plus 5 on council.
Plus
yes.
5 on council.
Yeah.
Who's counting?
Yeah.
Who's counting?
I think a real retirement is in order
Yeah.
instead of a real retirement.
Yeah.
Grandkids need to be paid attention to, yeah.
And I like to say about 95% of it I've really enjoyed, so.
Yeah.
It's another 5%.
Yeah, it's been a good thing, so. Otherwise, happy Thanksgiving to everybody. And we'll meet again on the 1st, the Monday after,
December
or the 2nd, I'm sorry, the
Yep.
Monday after Thanksgiving. I have one appointment tonight, which is Wilhelmina Fessenbecker to the Library Board, effective immediately through June 30th, 2027. She's taking Mary Anderson's
She's awesome.
spot, so.
Is that
Is there-
Patrick's?
That's
Pardon?
Patrick's point?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is there a motion to approve that appointment?
Motion to
I
approve?
second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes, and I think, I know she's meeting with Ryan today, so I think
Yeah.
she's probably going
She's
to be at the meeting
outstanding.
tomorrow,
Okay.
so. If there's nothing else,
Motion to adjourn.
is there a second?
Second.
Patrick.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned, thank you.